name's Jamie, and this is Rosha.
My name is Roozi. We own a restaurant, my wife and I. It was about maybe 2013 that the thought of going vegan started, coming to me. I think by year 2014, that's when I went fully vegan. I wanted to stay as a vegetarian because I just couldn't give up eggs. But obviously, it was the beginning of my journey, so I wasn't really educated about the egg industry and what happens to baby milk chicks. And once I was faced with that, and I think that was the end of eating eggs for me. I would say, I think beginning of 2014, been vegan since then, yeah.
Eggs was a hard thing to get rid of?
Eggs was hard. I think the reason is we grew up in a family and household where we had a lot of chickens in the backyard, so eating eggs was always a very easy thing for me. If my parents weren't home, I always had access to eggs from the chicken coop. We never killed our animals. I grew up with a lot of animals. That's so funny because I always thought that I was an animal lover while I was eating other animals. It wasn't until I think it was 2013, me and my wife both worked at this hotel in Galleria, when I was talking to one of our guests who was a vegan at the time, and I didn't know. We were just talking, making conversation, me as a manager, trying to just talk to our guests and give them directions and inform them about where they can go shops and stuff like that. She was insisting to go to Whole Foods Market to buy product, and I was trying to kind of talk her out of it to go to Kroger, which was much closer, so we didn't have to really give her a ride there, because that was part of our job, to give people rides. Back then there was really not other places but Whole Foods that you could buy exotic vegan products, like vegan cheese. It was just Whole Food Market that had all the exotic vegan products. So she wanted to go to Whole Foods Market to buy vegan cheese. And she told me that. She was like, I need to go there to buy vegan cheese. I didn't know what that meant. And this is not, century ago. This is about 10 years ago, and I didn't even know what the vegan meant. So I was like, yeah, can you get that from Kroger? She was like, no, I need to go to Whole Foods. So from our current location back then to Whole Foods wasn't too far. It was maybe about a couple miles, but it was during the holidays, so the traffic was very jam-packed. So I ended up giving her a ride, but that maybe a 5 minutes ride to Whole Foods with that traffic took about 20 minutes. So in the car, we're just making small, conversations. For some reason, we talked about animals, and I'm telling her about all the animals that I've ever had and I still had at the time. And she was like, you vegan, aren't you? I was like, what? She was like, you're not vegan? I was like, what's that? She was like, oh gosh, have you heard of vegetarians? I was like, yeah, I've heard of vegetarians. They eat vegetables. She was like, oh, not really. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, they still eat dairy, honey, eggs, and stuff like that. But vegans don't eat anything that comes from animal. They don't wear any animals, the skins, or any of that. I was like, wow, really? I didn't know that. That's 2013, and I still didn't know that. So I was like, wow, that's very interesting. She was like, I was like, no. She was like, you still eat meat then? I was like, yeah, I do. She was like, so you don't love animals? And I was like, yeah, I do love animals. She was like, no, you don't. If you do love animals, you don't eat them. I was like, I don't eat. She was like, you're a pet lover. You're not an animal lover. At that point, I don't think I wasn't looking at her. My whole world was crumbled. Everything that I ever thought and believed of myself as an animal lover, everything was just very conflicted, I was like, my whole world was shattered, completely shattered. And maybe we had another mile to drop her off. That mile, I just couldn't say anything. I couldn't say any word. Had a lot of thoughts coming at me. When we got there, it felt like it was another 10 years to get there. I dropped her off. I gave her a business card so she could call to get lift back to the hotel. When I gave her a business card and I looked at her, she kind of smiled at me. I think she knew exactly what she did at the moment. I wish I could, get a hold of her and just tell her, hey, look what you did to me. So I dropped her off, came back to the hotel. I told one of my guys that, hey, she's gonna call. You're gonna go have to pick her up. I'm not picking her up. So at that moment, my life started changing. I remember, I was like 30 at the time. So I've been eating meat all my life. I ate meat for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. I always had to eat meat for every meal. My mom used to make vegetarian dishes. Now that I look back, my mom used to make a lot of vegetarian dishes. I wouldn't touch it. I was the only son, very spoiled. My dad would appreciate some vegetarian dishes. He was eating meat, but he was very fit. He used to work out. He was in a good shape. But at nighttime, he wouldn't eat meat or heavy dinner. He would only eat fruits, or maybe he would appreciate my mom vegetarian dishes. But my mom had to make a different meal with meat in it, so I'll eat. So I'm coming from that type of culture and family. So now when someone tells me I can never, go vegan, I'm like, you don't know that. You don't ever say that. So that's how I was raised. So after that interaction with that hotel guest, I still went to my favorite Persian restaurants in town. I still went eat kebabs. But every single time when I would eat meat, her voice was in my head. All the thoughts was coming. I had to kind of go back to my roots and kind of like figure out a lot of things that happened. I remember, I don't know if you ever had interaction with chickens. Chickens are very like cats. That's why they're both my favorite animals, chickens and cats. They have very different characteristics. Some of them could be very mean. Some of them are very sweet and loving. Some of them are what I call Sour Patch, kind of sweet and sour like cats. But they're all like different. They're not like puppies or dogs, obedient. They're very independent animals, and that's one thing they have in common with cats. And then another thing they have in common with cats, they purr. And they purr, and to me, my own experience, their purring, as far as frequency, it's a lot more healing than cats. Out of all these animals, I had like 12 cats, and we had like bunch of chickens. I had fish tanks growing up. I had birds in the cage that I thought that I loved. I had turtles. So I was born and grew up around a lot of animals. That's what I loved, animals. And out of all those animals, there was only one chicken that was my favorite. And I would hold her every night. She would purr and put me to sleep. Let's say next day, I have a twin sister. My mom used to call us, her name is Roxy. Hey, Roozi, Roxy, dinner is ready or lunch is ready. We would set that on the table and would eat the chicken that my mom bought from the grocery store. We never killed our animals, right? Eating chicken, not knowing the chicken that I'm eating is no different than chicken that I love more than any human, So I had to realize all that stuff, that my parents didn't know any better, they didn't taught me that. That's why I look at my daughter, I envy her, because she's, born vegan. Now I can teach her what I've learned. And I don't blame my parents. They did the best they could. But now as a parent and who's aware, I can pass that on to my child. I can show her what the chicken nuggets that are in the grocery store is coming from. I could take her to a slaughterhouse. I became an animal rights activist. Fast forward now. My first year of veganism was really dark. It was, I found the whole world being so dark, so evil. I was the only vegan. And I didn't know any vegans except on social media. I didn't have any vegetarian friends. So I felt very lonely. I could see through the deception, I could go out and see people eating meat like nothing, and I was like, wow. But I couldn't stop talking about it, even though I wasn't very knowledgeable, but I knew in my heart I'm on the right side against everybody, including my own family, including my best friends. I started posting a lot of graphic footage, which changed my life, kind of opened my eyes to what really meat is. I was being attacked by a family member on social media, making fun of me. A lot of my best friends. At the time, like I said, I wasn't very knowledgeable, so I was just taking it in. Somebody's like, what about B12? I didn't know about B12. I didn't know B12 comes from soil, So every question that I took and I didn't have any answer to it, I had to go do a research on it. So I did a lot of research. Maybe 2 years later, I was so confident that I wanted to like go out and speak out. You know, I could now on social media, I could educate someone when they would comment, bacon. I was like, okay. You know, I would like go like type in paragraphs. And I was like, okay, I need to get it out there. It's like social media, it wasn't enough for me. I think it was about 2014 or 15 when my wife's parents, we were dating at the time, we weren't married. They were coming from Michigan to come see us, hang out, and go to Houston Rodeo, which is a huge deal, very huge deal for people in Texas. It's a huge event, a multi-million dollars, if not $1 billion event. It's huge. So that was, during the time that I was getting really passionate. So I told my wife that I had this idea. I came across this picture on social media. It's a picture of a head of a half dog and half cow. It's a picture. And then it says, the only difference is your perception. That picture just really resonated with my soul. I was like, I wonder if I can make that in like a poster and take it to rodeo. But I'm not really good at painting or like crafting, so my wife is. So I told her, this is what I want, can you make that for me? She was like, yeah. She said, what do you want to do? I was like, I'm coming to the rodeo with you guys. She was like, are you sure? She didn't get it. I was like, yeah, but I'm not going in. I'm going to be out there protesting. She's like, are you sure? I was like, yes. So she made that. I think I still have it at home. And so we all went to rodeo. They dropped me off. They went inside. And as I'm walking towards the main entrance with my sign, obviously people are like booing, telling me, cursing, cussing, all kinds of shit. And as I'm getting closer, I can see a few other people were standing on the side of the street with the sign. I was like, I wonder what these guys are. What are they doing here? As I'm getting closer now, I can see vegan signs, and I was like, no way! This is insanity. So I just ran to them. I was like, what are you guys doing? So at the time, there was a guy, he was like, well, we've been doing this for 3 years. It was a local organization ran by Michael Batty. Sorry, Mike, if you're watching this. But so there was like maybe 10 of them spread out, standing. So that was like one of the best moments of my life because I felt like, oh my God, I can't believe now I have new friends that they get me. So we stood there, protest a few hours. We exchanged number. I became part of their organization. I started doing activism with them. And fast forward, I think 2 years later, the scene got so big. I think it was the time that there was like maybe 40 up to 50 of us protesting different events. We did all kinds of different stuff. We did some really intense protests, disruption in the mall. We got kicked out, banned. It was going really good. I think it was up to like the last election or the election before. Things changed, and unfortunately, things got political amongst the activists. And that was one thing that I really didn't make any sense to me because I was like, if anything, we as activists, we're fighting against the biggest industry, the meat industry, the dairy industry, and the egg industry. These are government-funded industry. These are heavily government-funded industry. So I can't understand you as an activist would take a side of their political party, you know what I mean? So, but unfortunately, it was like heating up. And I was like, because honestly, to that point, I thought when you become vegan, you could see through all deceptions. But that's not the case. You could still be programmed and fall for the two-party Democrat-Republican illusion. And I was like, oh man, that's sad. I was like, I could see, I was like, these are political games. We're fighting against these guys. But it was getting out of control. That's when I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So I was like, So I wanted to kind of take back and, take a break. And it was during that time, and my girlfriend at the time was going vegan. I never wanted to make her to go vegan. I always challenged her, but I never wanted her to go vegan because of me. But she was very supportive. She never eat meat or anything in front of me, or she always cooked for me because I hate cooking. I never liked cooking. So she was making everything vegan at home, so I wouldn't know if she was eating meat or not. I think one day she came to me and told me, hey, by the way, I haven't eaten any meat or any animal product for like 3-4 weeks. I was like, really? I didn't know, because I wouldn't know, because she wouldn't do that in front of me. I was like, really? That's amazing. She was like, yeah, I think I can do this. I was like, that's awesome. That's when I was like, okay, I think that's I'm gonna take this to the next level. So I started planning to propose to her. I was like, okay, now we can get married. So I started planning out. I wanted to be something very special for both of us. So I planned a trip to Peru and South America, because I was always obsessed with the ancient ruins, the ancient cultures, the history, everything. And Peru was one of the spots that I really, really wanted to see, and also wanted to have a little bit of a more like a spiritual journey down to Amazon, maybe some ayahuasca. Told her about that. I didn't tell her that I'm planning to propose to you, but I was like, hey, we're going to Peru. We're going to go see Machu Picchu and see all the ruins, and we're going to go and have some very spiritual, journey down in Amazon. So we had to like watch a lot of documentaries and kind of like educate ourselves. And I got her a ring. We call it a vegan ring. It's a vegan diamond. It's not blood diamond. Made in lab. I wanted to make sure the ring that I'm getting her, it's vegan. And I got it, and one of my best friends, I told her, because I wanted to capture that moment. That was my whole plan, to take her on the top of the Machu Picchu and propose to her. And so I had one of my best friends to come with us, Manuel, if you're watching this. Yeah, so we went out there, and it was fun. That's a long story itself. But I proposed to her, and after that, we had about maybe another 10 days to different city, go to Amazon for a ceremony. And I think it was during that ceremony when the thoughts of Pythagoras started coming at me. I remember part of the ritual, one of the ceremony that as an option that you could do, it's called Kambo. Kambo, it's the name of a frog that has some sort of a poison on its skin. When it gets irritated, they started like kind of sending out this type of like poison that people kind of extract and digest, and it makes you have a very bad diarrhea, kind of like detoxification with their poison. They've been doing that for hundreds of years, the locals, for people that they need some sort of a detoxification or whatever. So it's not part of the ritual, you get to do that. But I was like, me and my wife were the only vegans in the entire retreat. And I refused to do it. I was like, I don't need to go, bother this fellow. If I was sick, or if but we're done. You just doing this for experience, I was like, because it's the way the whole process, they said we don't harm the frog, but the whole process, they tie the frog, they tie both legs and hands, and they kind of like mess with it. So he start getting angry, so he start like creating all this poison, and they start scraping the poison. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I refused to do that. And the same night, during our ayahuasca ceremony, I had the vision that this frog came to me. This frog came to me, and we had a conversation. I think brought this idea of, hey, you need to do something, and you still need to contribute to animal rights, but maybe another way. So I talked to my wife about doing foods, and she was like, yeah, Roozi, food is a great way of bringing people together, showing people, hey, you can still eat this. You don't even have to compromise on taste or flavor. You can still eat this without killing animals. So that was an idea. But at the time, me and my wife, we both were working crazy jobs at the hotel industry. We both worked in the hotel industry for 15 plus years. So we only have maybe a day off that we could do that. So we started doing pop-ups. I think we did our first pop-up in downtown. There's a bar, it's called Axelrad downtown Houston. That was our first pop-up. We did what we call it sloppy vegan. It's our
sloppy?
It's sloppy vegan, yeah. It's our pulled king oyster mushroom mixed with jackfruit and barbecue and a pretzel bun, sliders. It's very sloppy. You take a bite of that, everything very sloppy, but it's very good. So it's called sloppy vegan. So we were supposed to be there for a few hours. I think we sold out like an hour or two. And it was another gentleman. We came, got food, left a business card. He's like, hey, I own a brewery in Heights. I really like your food. We have vendors on Saturday, Sunday. They're non-vegan vendors, but we do need a vegan vendor for Fridays for our vegan customers. I was like, oh, we actually have a full-time job. I don't think we could do it on Friday. We're only open like Friday, Saturday or Sunday or something like that. It was like, well, here's my business card, think about it. I've struggled with a lot of back surgery, back problem. I had 3 back surgeries. And then at that same time, I talked to my wife. She was like, hey, if you want to put in more time, maybe in this pop-up thing, I think there's potential to it. So I stopped going to the hotel. I left my job. I put in more work and effort and time to this pop-up, trying to create more dishes, trying to be more creative. Even though I hate cooking, I hate all that, but like kind of brought that creativity out of me. I was like, I wanted to do, I had all these ideas. So we started doing pop-ups, and then we got an offer from Urban Harvest Farmers Market, which is one of the biggest farmers market in Houston, that they wanted a vegan vendor, and we went there, took some samples, left it. A week went by. I was like, they're never gonna call us. Probably the food wasn't never eaten or it was trashed. And they called us. It's like, hey, we tried your food. It was cold, but it was good. So you guys got a spot. So I think that's when we kind of like blew up, I would say, or maybe gained some followers, because now we had a permanent location, downtown Houston, farmers market, 2 days a week. That was our permanent spot. From there, we started doing, getting other offers. We started doing a lot of Veg Fest. That was funny. We were in the farmers market, so we had 10. We didn't have a food truck. We would just put everything in 2 cars. We had 2 SUVs. We would take everything there, set up the tent, grill, everything, and then we had to like pack everything back. So we didn't have a food truck. So everything was out of our 2 cars. So I remember there was a time we were at the farmers market. A lady came to us, very nice lady, Shelly, if she's watching. She was like, hey, she bought some food. She came back. She was like, hey, I really like your food. Do you guys do catering? I was like, yeah, we do catering. She was like, for wedding? I was like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. But I didn't want to say no. I was like, yes. Because, I wasn't afraid of it. We just got married the year before. We had a full vegan wedding that my wife planned it very nicely, and everybody was blown away. So I was like, it's not something new to us, We did it for ourselves. And we both coming from a hospitality background, service industry. So even though we've never done it for anybody else, but I was like, yeah, we can do that confidently. I was like, yeah, we can definitely. She was like, hey, can we do a testing? I was sure. So we had set up our living room for them, and they came. And she said, my husband's not vegan. His family's not vegan. I'm the only one, but I think your food can impress non-vegans. I was like, sure. So they came in for testing. They had a really nice budget, and they tested everything. They liked everything. She requested few more things and signed a contract with them. And that was like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 300 people wedding. It was one of the very fancy venue in downtown Houston. And I had to reach out to my friends, some of the activists I used to work with, and all my vegan friends. I needed about 20 people staff. And I told them, I pay you guys this much. So I got my team ready, and we went and we rocked, man. There was 20 of us, food, everything was blown away. She didn't tell anybody the food is vegan till after the fact. People was like, oh, that food was good. And then she told us like everything was vegan. That was great. And then I think it was a month later, 2 months later, our name came up to the Wedding Houston magazine as a caterer, vegan. I think that gave us a lot of attractions and exposure, if you will. We were doing good, and then my wife and I, we were pregnant with our baby. We were still doing pop-ups, but not as much, because she wasn't really feeling good, at the beginning of her pregnancy. And then as she was getting closer, we kind of cut down. I wanted her to chill more, and then COVID happened. Bars started closing, everywhere started closing, and we were fully stocked for the upcoming events that were coming. I had my vegan pepperonis, I had everything. My freezer and fridge was fully stocked, and then COVID happened, and everything shutting down. I was like, oh my God, so what are we gonna do? So there was no bar, there was nothing to go pop out at. I was like, you know what? We can't just sit on all this food. we're gonna do pop up from our home. So I turned our garage into like kind of kitchen, and I made a post. I called it because that was the time everybody's panicking. So I did this so I came up with our latest pepperoni pizza, and I called it Panic Pepperoni. It blew up. So we were doing takeout from our home, delivery from our home. I was delivering from my home. I think when that's kind of sad to see all business were closing down. We were growing, but the peak of COVID, the following 3 months, we gained about 2,000 followers. And we cooked out of our house every single day. We were like, Brandon, my wife was like, Roozi, I'm pregnant. You need to chill out, man. I was like, and so we were growing. So I think we kind of like blew up during COVID. And then after, kind of COVID was like settling and everything kind of was going back to normal. And then we decided to move to Sugar Land because, we were living in a smaller house and I wanted to live in a bigger house where my baby can go play around, and kind of always liked Sugar Land area because it's in the sub. The Houston's getting real crowded. And the Sugar Land is always beautiful. It's got lakes everywhere, it's ducks everywhere. It's just always so peaceful, and I always liked Sugar Land. So we started looking around. I was like, oh my God, for the money that we're gonna spend, buy a small house in Houston, we can buy a big house in Sugar Land. And that's what we did. My wife's parents came down to help us out with the baby and all that. And then we were looking around just to go eat food, found out there's no vegan restaurants in West Houston. There was none, zero. I mean, there are vegan options everywhere you go. Burger King, for God's sake, has burger option, but like full service vegan restaurant that you just want to go have a full experience. No, and my wife was like, Roozi, maybe this can be the place for us to open a vegan restaurant. And we were stopped. We weren't doing because we just moved. We weren't doing any pop-ups out of house. So our followers or fans, everybody, hey, you guys gonna start doing pizza? We missed your pizza. We missed your wings. And like, it's like you guys should open a brick and mortar. And everybody, yeah, you guys, well, when is this brick and mortar? And I was like, it all sounds so easy, brick and mortar, you know what I mean? It takes a whole village, man. So we were fortunate enough with the help of my wife's parents for believing in us, in our vision, and trusting us with their investment, money, and we made this happen. This itself is a whole another journey. We signed a contract about not last October, the October before. 3 months in, we're doing a lot around. This place used to be like a steak, like a full wine bar, steak bite type. They had a small kitchen. When we walked in, the whole hood they had was like greasy. It had such a bad negative thing to it. I was like, okay, we have to do some major renovation. I want to pull this thing down, put a brand new on. We were in the kind of renovation, in the process of renovation, when the Texas famous freeze came 2 years ago. Outrage everywhere, people like losing everything. So we were safe at our home, but we had two major pipe burst out in the kitchen and one in the bathrooms. The entire kitchen was flooded. I mean, entire restaurant was flooded. By the time when landlord came, and trying to figure out, they said you're gonna have potential mold growing. So we're gonna have to call a remediation crew. The remediation crew came in, hazard suit, this and that. We're like, okay, they measured everything. It was like, okay, everything needs to be stripped out. I was like, what? It's like, yep, the entire restaurant needs to be gutted out. I was like, oh my God, it's already been too late, They were like, yep, this and that. And I was like, at that point, I was like, God, like how many punches can we get? Because like during that process, we had issues with the city of Sugar Land. We had issue with the blueprint of the entire building. The landlord didn't have the blueprint, so we had to like go find actually hire architecture and pay them because the landlord didn't have. It was just a whole mess. That entire thing, I was like, okay, something's like telling me this is not happening. Like it's not meant to be. But something again in me like was telling me, keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. They had to come. They got everything out. That alone sets us back another 6 months. I didn't know then that was actually a blessing in the sky, because when they started gutting everything out, we found out there were actually mold growing in the exterior. We had foundation problem. And that's when my contractor was like, oh, Roozi, we can't do any work here. Your landlord needs to fix all of this. This is an old building. It's older than me. I think it was built in 1982. They had to do all that work before even I can have my contractor come do the renovation that I want to expand the kitchen. And I was like, wow, that's just saved us, because it was just a matter of time down the road that we would have to face all those problems, and it was going to be on us. We had to pay for it. We had to deal with it because we were already renting, we were already in running operation and according to contract. And then after that, you're on your own, and whatever happens, it's your responsibility. So now that I look back, I was like, wow, everything does happen for a reason. So we're very fortunate for that to happen. Now that I look back, the whole thing took about 17 months. We're finally open for business just this past January 18th. It was our first day. We started with just four or five of us, six maybe, 4 days a week, short hours, 11 to 2, and then get a 2 hours break, 3 to 5, just to get everything organized. I think first 2 months we only did our pizza and wings, and then slowly we expanded our menu, and now everyone says that we have the biggest menu in Houston as far as vegan restaurant. And people sometimes, I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or complain, or we had a lot of guests like, this is overwhelming. I was like, I'll take it as a compliment. But somebody was really overwhelmed and was not happy about how excessive the menu is. So now, yeah, we're going a little over 8 months as a vegan restaurant. We are just awarded as the best vegan restaurants of 2022 by City of Sugar Land, which was very tough competition considering we're the only vegan restaurant. But we take it.
Maybe somebody will try to step up.
Right? Maybe we'll be the reason for more businesses to grow out here. That's what I'm looking for. We never opened this restaurant because we wanted to have a business. Why I started as animal rights activist, brought me to this.
Let's talk about your menu a little bit, man. I mean,
what
are some of the most popular?
I'm Persian, born and raised. Like I was saying, I ate a lot of meat. I ate meat for every meal. One of my favorite things to eat was kebab kubide. Persians, or I would say more Mediterranean or Middle Eastern, eat kebabs very similar like Brazilians, on very big, thick skewers. Just that's how we eat kebabs. And the kebab kubide, it's the way of Persians make it. It's 3 ingredients. It might sound gross, but I'm gonna say it. It's like, depends on what part of Iran, but it's like 30% lamb, 70% sheep, and then onions. It's 3 ingredients. That's what I used to eat. That was my favorite food to eat. So when I went vegan, that was something I craved and missed the most. And I spent a lot of time, even during our pop-ups, when we were doing pop-ups, trying to find meat substitutes and something that I could, copy that, try to veganize that, as we say. I think the first meat substitute I started trying to practice that kebab was from, maybe it is Felrose. It was another one too. Anyway. So I started practicing with that. It was all right. And my wife said once, are you going to try to serve this at your pop-up? I was like, no, it's not there. I want it to be close. If not the same, be close. So I was playing around with it. I used Impossible. And then when I used Beyond, really, I felt like, okay, it's getting closer, but I had to tweak. Beyond has that very distinct flavor and smell to it. I was like, I don't like that. That shouldn't be there. So I started adding a lot of other things to it.
Like plastic or something.
It's different, But I like their products because their products are non-GMO. It took me about 4 years to perfect the recipe. And I had to share that with everyone in my family and just to see everyone's feedback. Most of them, I would say, all of them were not vegans. And everybody was like, this tastes better than actual meat. And there is a reason for it, because it's not just 3 ingredients, 2 different flesh with onions. There's all kinds of vegetables, herbs, and spices that goes into our kebab. So we were like, okay, let's start, rolling it out. We'll start serving it, and we're doing it with skewer. There's actually a video on our Instagram or Facebook as me how I make it from scratch. We skewer it, traditionally grill it. When we started serving that, a lot of Persians started coming that were not vegan. Or some of them are vegan. To that point, honestly, I thought I was the only vegan Persian in the world. Till we started serving our Persian dishes, and I found out, oh, I'm not the only vegan Persian. There are a lot of them out here. I met a lot of them. But all non-vegans ate the kebab, and they said, this tastes better than actual meat. Can't wait to have you try it, and it's my baby, you know, I hold it to my dear, you know. Yeah, it is, because it's a huge deal for me to be vegan. I still eat the same thing I used to eat, if not better.
Comfort food.
Yeah, without even compromising on anything, on flavor, texture, or anything. And I still have that, you know, I consciously feel good about myself, and I'm grateful, very grateful.
Now, how did you know it would be safe to raise your child vegan?
Because I was very well educated. You know, I found out that we all must be, we are born vegan. We're physically, I can't even say herbivore, but frugivorous. We are, that I didn't know, that they didn't teach us in school. Like in their entire, I remember our entire biology, as far as I remember growing up in elementary school, like being taught we're an omnivore. We're not an omnivore. A bear is an omnivore. A dog, most dogs are omnivore. There's some carnivore. A raccoon is an omnivore. And then we have obligate carnivores. A lion, obligate carnivore. Cats are obligate carnivores. And the design that way, if you just break down the very basic anatomy, you can tell the difference as far as the digestive tract, the enzyme in your stomach, the hands, the way you walk. We are very similar to gorillas and to monkeys. There are some monkeys like chimpanzee that they do eat meat for survival. When it comes down to survival and they can't find food, they're gonna go kill hunt. And I think that's where we kind of like stuck. When there was a time that we had to caveman diet, right? We don't live in a cave, do we? We don't anymore. So there's no reason, we're not trying to survive here. We have an unlimited access to great plant-based food. We have this little computer devices we call smartphone, drive smart car. Everything's evolved, but we still stick to the caveman diet. What can we, you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so there's no doubt about that. There was a time that we had to survive and kill, eat, whatever, but we're not meant to consume that. We're the only species that have to cook flesh to eat. If we're omnivores, that we need to be able to eat both, as an omnivore, eat both fruits and flesh raw. A bear is a perfect example of a omnivore. You can see bear eating leaves, you know, climbing up, whatever. The bears are also great hunter. They can catch fish, bare hand, eat it raw right there with the face, eat the head all the way, maybe the bone. First off, we can catch fish without our bare hands. We don't have claws, we have fingers. It's another sign that a lot of people don't want to avoid. You have fingers. You don't have claws. The claws are the first tool for a born hunter. We don't have that. Fingers, meant to pick, meant to peel, meant to climb up, like monkeys, gorillas. This is a very basic anatomy that we need to focus on. Yeah, knowledge. If I call myself an omnivore, I need to go be able to catch a fish from a river with my bare hand. I shouldn't have tool. If I'm natural, I'm a born omnivore. And just like every other omnivore, I need to be natural, be able to naturally go without any tool. Catch a fish, start eating it. Who does that? Yeah, you may go to some sushi place and cut a piece of a little raw fish, wrap it up in a bunch of vegetables and call yourself yeah, I'm eating raw. No, you can't. Go eat a live fish while still breathing, starting with the fish head. Go all the way down. We can't do that.
I mean, we might be able to, in a dire situation, figure out some clever way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we have to worry about the pathogens,
yeah,
or the worms, or whatever.
Exactly, exactly.
And then if we did that enough, we might build enough of this acid in our stomach to maybe combat that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, these are extreme situations. That don't really seem conducive for optimum, health in the long run.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. We can adapt to certain things.
I like pointing that out because why adapt to something that involves hurting animals when we could adapt toward fostering food forest and gardens and things like that.
Absolutely.
Why create backyards that have slaughterhouses when we could have backyards that have gardens?
Unfortunately, I honestly, to my research, I really went back. At first I had to figure out my own childhood and how I was programmed this way, and throughout seeing all cultures. And then Plato, I got really obsessed with Greek philosophers, especially Pythagoras himself, in which I named my restaurant for. Pythagoras he was inspired by Zoroaster, which is the founder of Zoroastrianism in Persia. That means my ancestors were vegetarian. So I was like, what? There's something's not adding up. So I had to go dig really deep. I found out all the great civilizations in the past were all plant eaters. Well, maybe there was no term such as vegan or vegetarians, but nobody ate meat during the Golden Age. The Egyptians, the Persians, the Greeks. Plato talks about it. And then I started coming down and I found out literally all the greatest minds in the entire human civilizations were all plant eaters. Again, there was no term of vegan or vegetarian, right? Plato, Pythagoras, Socrates, these guys were fruitarian. That's level 5. That's level 5 vegan. You know what I mean? Fruitarian. I was like, what? And I found out Nikola Tesla, vegetarian. Vegetarian, not eating, they didn't have the term vegan. He didn't even consume eggs. He didn't consume anything that comes from the animal. And he was very outspoken about it in his writings, but we've never taught that and told that in school. Nobody talks about that. William Shakespeare was very outspoken about that. Obviously, they want us only to read these stuff about William Shakespeare, not those stuff. Leonardo da Vinci, he's the founder of a lot of things, a lot of technology. He was very outspoken about that. He was himself a plant eater. And I'm like, what? So, and as I'm digging down, I found out all these greatest minds were plant eater. Why? There must be a reason. And that actually led me to figure out why these guys were. These guys were doing it for the animals or doing it for the health? And I found out, no, these guys knew that we're not born to eat that way. We're not designed. They were doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do. At that point, I was like, okay, then now I know I'm going to have to pass it on to my child. I was like, my baby is going to do the right thing. It's not me forcing my vegan agenda down her throat. It's me telling her. I think it's a great point. I had the conversation with my wife's mom the other day. They're here to help us out a lot. And she said that my daughter, they were having a food that was not vegan. She said, hey, she's at the age where she was like, she wants to eat my food. And what we tell her, I was like, so what they do is no, you can't have that. I was like, that's not going to be enough. I call her mom because my parents passed both. So my wife's parents are both my own parents. So I call her mom. I was like, Mom, I need you to start telling her why she can't have that. Just don't tell her that she can't have that. Tell her why. Because my parents didn't tell me. If my mom would have told me the chicken that I'm eating at the dinner table, lunch table is no different than chicken that you love, I would have been vegan a long time ago. But they didn't tell me that. So if I'm not around, I need you to tell her. Because if you don't tell her, I'm gonna tell her. And you're like, your grandma didn't tell you, but I'm gonna tell you. But
so grandmother doesn't eat vegan, but no. she's totally cool with, she doesn't violate.
Oh no, they're very supportive. They're very supportive. They take her out to vacations if we're busy. They go out of their way to get her the vegan stuff that she likes to eat, and they're super supportive. I can trust them with anything. And they're very supportive in our lifestyle, and they make sure she eats everything vegan. They're always watching her. Oh yeah, they're very supportive.
Do you feel like they're maybe moving in this direction a little bit, maybe at all?
I think no. They eat vegan. They eat vegan with us a lot of times. At home, we mainly cook vegan. Mm-hmm. They usually eat non-vegan when we're not home, but they come here, eat a lot. Both, they like our food. They love our food. They could eat it almost every day, but there was a time if we're not around, they're gonna go, let's say, eat Domino's. You know what I mean? Because they grow up eating it. I don't know. But yeah, they love vegan food. They're not anti, they love, but they're just, I guess maybe they're a little older. They're like, we're not gonna change. We're not gonna go vegan.
Now, what about your daughter?
She's obviously born vegan. She's unvaccinated. Because
Unvaccinated?
Yep. My daughter's great. She's super smart. I think she's smarter than any other kid I've seen.
How old?
And she's 2.5. She'll be 3 this February. She'll be 3 years old.
Whole food exclusive for the most part?
So it's funny. First 3 months she couldn't eat anything, right? And then that was during the time we were still doing pop-ups. So I was doing cooking a lot of Beyond sausage and stuff like that. Because she couldn't even smell the Beyond meat. She was like, anything that resembles of meat, whether it's Beyond meat, really makes me sick. So she would walk away. She would go hide herself in the bedroom, or I couldn't even make Beyond sausage for my pop-up. Everything would make her sick. The only thing she could eat was avocados, maybe some rice. And she started craving for Amy's mac and cheese. Oh my God, we would go on a hunt. We would go on a hunt. Different grocery store, I would go to vegan, because Amy also makes non-vegan. But if I would see the vegan ones, I would grab all of them and then put in a basket, go to the grocery store. That's all she would eat. I think for the next 3 months, up to say she was 6 months old, she was just eating Amy's mac and cheese and avocado. After 6 months, she was normal. She had her appetite back. She was eating, and she was eating good. And she was more comfortable holding everything down, so she was more conscious of what she's eating. She's eating a lot of greens, a lot of healthy stuff.
Do you have any regrets?
Yes. I think it's a very common regrets among all vegans that I wasn't born vegan.
Now, was there ever a time before you went vegan that you thought, there's no way I could do that?
Oh yeah. We had vegetarians in our family, a couple. Now that I look back, that they wouldn't participate in Thanksgiving. They would. I was the one that was like, why are they not sitting with us? And then I remember somebody said they're vegetarians. I was like, okay, but there's vegetables. They're like, yeah, they just don't want to sit here. I was like, oh, that's weird. I was shoving my fist in the turkey. I looked back, and it got to the point when I went vegan, I couldn't participate in that. Then I would get it. So it's there was a time at first fresh vegan, when I was the only vegan in the family, didn't have any vegan friends. First year was what I was telling you was dark. I remember going to my sister's house for Thanksgiving. Everybody's sitting, this giant dead turkey in front of me. Everybody's ripping this turkey apart, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he was like, hey, Roozi, you can have some mashed potatoes. Oh, wait, no, that's got butter. You can't have that. Okay. Yeah, asparagus, eat that. Eat that. You can eat that, right? Oh, wait, it's drenched in butter. Oh, okay, great. Turkey legs, flesh, flying, everybody's digging. Yeah, salad. What's the dressing? There's no dressing. You can't have the salad. Okay, I'm eating salad. I'm like, and then second year, I was like, oh, no, I'm not going. I'm not sitting with you. I'm not taking their shit anymore. You know what I mean? And I think I was just getting more confident. I was like, oh, we're going to make our own way of, Friendsgiving, or what's that? Gardein turkey is my favorite.
I love that, Friendsgiving.
So we started doing that with our vegan friends, getting together, friends living, some call it.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite quotes you want to share?
Favorite quote? I would say from Pythagoras. And when I came across that quote, it shook me to my core. And that's when I started digging, finding out about the genius of the world that we're vegan. So somebody hit me up with this quote. It just made a lot of sense. Before we know from Pythagoras that he was just a mathematician, he was a philosopher. That's all we know from him, but nobody know how he was outspoken about animal rights. And when the thought of opening a restaurant and all that stuff came to me, I was like, I'm gonna actually put that on a scroll, and I'm gonna make it visible from everybody walking in. I want that to be the first thing everybody walks into the restaurant. With the help of my wife's mom, in fact, she made it for me in a scroll. Says, as long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as man massacre animals, they will kill each other. Indeed, he sows the seed of murder and pain, cannot reap joy and love. End quote, Pythagoras. It's just make a lot of sense. It's just we're in this endless cycle of karma. And I look back, I was like, and I read, everything make a lot of sense, because like golden age, why they were in the golden age era, because there was none of that stuff happening. Everybody was in a much higher level of consciousness, not just consciously, spiritually, technologically. And I feel like, according to this might offend a lot of people, but according to my research, the downfall of man, that we started coming down from golden age, kind of came all with religions. All these religions, the eating meat, yeah, you can call it some survival and ice age and flood and survival mode. But then right after that, there was like a lot of religions, like I would say the Abrahamic religions kind of came, hey, don't kill that, kill this, eat that, sacrifice this. And that practice through all major religions. I think the only two truly religions that practice truly peace were like Buddhism and Zoroastrianism. They were all vegetarian or vegan. I could say they could really preach in peace. Or any religion that were basically respecting all living beings. But then every other religion, yeah, sacrifice this event's coming up, kill this, bloodshed. So I kind of like feel like all came with that. And it's even my ancestors, Zoroastrians, they're vegetarian, but now a lot of Zoroastrians are eating meat. And when I tell him, he's like, we don't supposed to, like, if you're like even truly practicing your own religion, you should be vegan right now. But it's like our entire history, or true history, I would say half of it's been wiped out. If I can say our entire history, or true history, it's a picture, it's been exploded. It's like somebody bombed this picture and exploded everywhere. Then most of it's completely destroyed. And there are pieces all left that I think I'm trying to like grab, put together, trying to get a picture of what really happened in the past, and trying to kind of make sense of our history. But we've been truly given a very false vision of our true reality. A lot of stuff that's been hidden from us. That's why we're deciding to homeschool our baby, because I never liked school either. I for some reason, I always thought there was something wrong. There was, I just couldn't take the programming. And unfortunately, they just, a school, I would call it school indoctrination camp. Raise you to be obedient, to raise you smart. They will teach you the math correctly because they want you to know that so you could run their machine and do their paperwork. That's what the system wants. So they will teach you the math correctly. They're not really much honest about the physics. They'll teach you the math correctly. History is all lies. That's just so you be obedient enough to be part of the system. Don't question authority, do what you're told.
Do you have any last minute encouraging words, or is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to throw out there?
It's never too late. I remember when I was, I show you, I have a picture, I have a poster of myself doing some intense activism when I'm naked with megaphone, blood everywhere, fake blood all over me on the street of downtown. We protest this butcher shop. It's like a butcher, but they butcher the animal right there. You can eat it then. And we did a huge shout out to Danny Alexander if she's watching this. She's a great activist. She did a lot of activism with PETA. We did a lot of activism together with a lot of other guys. I remember during my activism, I kind of like forgot. I was so into it, I kind of forgot who I was, where I came from. I remember days that I was screaming at people with megaphone, meat is murder, go vegan, da 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 da. And now that I'm not an activist that way, I think this is my form of activism. I still talk about, in fact, I had a vegetarian couple that they didn't know about egg industry. They were born vegetarian. Just like I was born meat eater, they were also born vegetarian. They didn't know any better. They were just born vegetarian. So I was telling them about the dairy industry. Their mind was blown. I was like, do you guys think cows are machines? They were like, what? And I started telling them, and my wife probably wasn't really happy because she probably thought those guests will never come back. But I'm not here to sell you my food. I'm here to sell you my philosophy, my my passion about animals. This is not just a restaurant. This is Pythagoras' conscious food philosophy. I have a lot more than food to offer you. And that's the knowledge that I've gained that I want to share. So they didn't get to finish their food. They asked for to-go box, they got their food, and they left. And everybody's like, Roozi, they will never come back to your restaurant. They came back 2 weeks later. And they said they've never touched dairy since then. That brought me to tears. That means more than anything for me. That values more than any money. I can't put a price on it, yeah, but I remember, like, as an activist telling that people, and now that I'm not, I was like, Roozi, I didn't go vegan overnight. I struggled. So I get people, like, some people, like, maybe watching this, are like, I can't do it. Take a little baby steps. As activists, I was like, people are dying, right? Animals are dying right now. You need to go vegan right now. But that's not logical. Especially for a person, for example, me, 30 years of life, I ate that way. I grew up, the animal flesh, and it changes your DNA structure. It changes everything. There's a lot of activists out there, you have to go vegan right now. The animals dying. But, like, unless, you probably have a right to say that if you were born vegan, but I can't. I was like, wow. I was like, that was very hypocritical for me, but I was lost in activism. I was so passionate. I was just angry. And now that I'm, like, out of it, I was like, oh, no, it took me a year to become fully vegan. I think couldn't give up eggs for a whole 6 months. And I remember, I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go vegan because I just can't give up eggs. And I'm happy with being vegetarian. And then somebody shoved, it's like, look at this, baby male chicks are getting grind. I was like, what? It's like, these are waste products. They don't mean anything. You just throw them in the grinder. And I was like, oh my God. And then I started doing a lot of other research. I was like, okay, yeah, the baby male chicks are waste products. And all around the world, they get murdered in one way or another. In the US, standard practice, throw them in the grinder. They have these big grinders, throw them in the grinder. In my country, in Iran, dig a hole, dump hundreds of them, 1,000 of them, with bulldozers, bury them alive. In India, put them in a hole, throw gasoline, burn them. Other countries, choke them, to put them all in the plastic bag, just close it. They're gonna kill them one way or another. I was like, that's the egg industry. Do you want to participate in that? I was like, no. And I was like, shit, what am I gonna do? We started looking out for egg substitute. It came out tofu scramble. This is like 10 years ago. Tofu scramble was like the only option. It wasn't doing it for me. But I was like, hey, I take it, over cruelty. Till Just Egg came around and changed my life. I was like, hey, I want to meet the CEO of Just Egg, dude. He just made my life easier. So now my daughter's hooked on Just Egg. She eats that every day. So that's my last minute thing. Sorry it took forever. That, hey, taking baby steps. Cut it down and just let that thoughts come to you. I mean, kind of like when that girl had that conversation with me. It took me about 3 months just to realize what she just said. Be open to it and be receptive and just start it. It's never too late. Start doing something. Because if anything, I have a lot of great interaction with people coming to my restaurant. Some of them are open, all about it. But this is a great way of me doing my activism because people are very receptive. People come in here first, they're hungry. Second, I'm really comfortable preaching to them because I'm not with the megaphone aggressively screaming at them. I'm very nice. I'm wearing my Annoying Vegan shirt. I love my shirt. And I was like, hey, I love your shirt. I was like, yep, I earned it. And they're like, hey, so what? And I tell them, they're very receptive, sit down, and then offering them meals. So they're eating. They're like, I can eat this? I thought like vegans eat salads. I can eat this. Like, yeah, okay. So they're very more open to accept things. And that's when I approach them in different ways. And this is my form of activism right now. And I also have interaction with people who are completely closed-minded. They come in. This is a trend, man. First, they don't even know this place is vegan, right? And then they start, is this vegan? I was like, what the trend? I was like, that's not a trend. If anything, I call this a great awakening because we are waking up, just like I did, going back to our roots. going way back to our roots, maybe even back to the old golden age, you know what I mean? When they knew better. So this is not something new. Our ancestor did it. And we got lost down the road somewhere. So I think now this is not a trend. Let's rephrase that. This is not a trend. This is a great awakening. We're waking up, going back to our roots, finding our moral baseline where we need to be as a species. I think in the next generation will be better because I'm passing it out to my child, and I know a lot of friends now that they have vegan babies. I think it will be a much brighter future. I might not be around to see it, but I'm sure my daughter will pass it on to the next generation. I think we'll have a much better world in the near future. But I want everybody to take part of it right now, even the baby step.
I'm so glad you went there with the eggs, because a lot of people think, oh, it's so easy, and it potentially doesn't hurt the chicken. What are you going to do with the egg anyway? You know, you hear stuff like that, but they don't realize that they're normalizing something that is totally unsustainable on the grand
level.
scale.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's a message that I hope we can get out there, because people they're not thinking in the big picture.
No, they're not. We're talking about hundreds and thousands. There's a egg. I'm gonna call them out because they lied to me. There's a brand of egg here in Texas. I've heard that they're actually expanding to other states. It's called the Whittle Farm. They're actually very transparent. You can actually see their farm. You go out there, and their eggs are the most expensive eggs in grocery stores, and it's called they call it pasture raised, humane certified, and then it's all look good because they have a big farm, open field. These chickens are roaming around in the grass, open field, right, all day, and then at nighttime they bring them back to the chicken coop. Next day, all of the chickens are out eating insects, bugs, whatever, living the best life, right? And that was the reason I was like, oh, okay, if I can eat these eggs, then I'll stay vegetarian. That was my excuse. Was that particular company made me to, and that's how naive I was in the beginning of my journey. Till I met a vegan, and I was like, hey, you're making a fool out of yourself, Roozi. What about the baby milk chicks? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, and so that's when I was educated about the baby milk chicks. So I reached out to them. I was like, hey, so what do you guys do with the baby milk chicks? Oh, they're like, we find homes. I was like, oh, okay, find homes. And I was, again, so naive enough that I accepted it. And then I went and told my vegan friend. I was like, oh, they found homes. He was like, are you stupid? I was like, what? He's like, we're talking about, if not thousands, we're talking about hundreds of roosters. These baby milk chicks will turn to rooster. Who wants a rooster in their house? You fucking show me. Take me to some places that they just have roosters. Would you want a rooster in your house? I was like, he was like, they're lying to you. Who wants to keep all these roosters? Go ask them to show some evidence about 200, 300, if not 1,000 roosters are being saved. These homes that you guys are finding. At that moment, I really felt stupid. I was like, wow, I can't believe that I was fooled that easy. I think that was the end. I was like, okay. I think I reached out to them. I was like, I don't know what I said. I was like, I don't think you guys are being fully transparent. I don't think you're killing your baby milk chicks. You're just not showing it. You don't leave any evidence of that. You just show the happy chickens. That was the end of me eating egg. That was it. Yeah.
And that's like where we started this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So another thing I appreciate you saying is you alluded to more and more people raising their children vegan, and it was almost as if you were gonna answer my question about, do you think we'll ever see a vegan world?
We might not be around, but we're in that direction. We're in that direction. We might not be around to see it. I don't even know if my child, but like maybe their children, their grandchildren. We're in that right direction. Like I said, I would say we're in a cycle. We came down from a vegan world, the golden age. That was the vegan world. We came down for whatever reason. You call it downfall of man, religions, ice age, whatever that brought us down as a civilization, I think we're going back up. We're in that direction, but we might not be old enough to be around and see it, but we certainly are.
Personally, I think the biggest catalyst, the biggest wave, is going to see more and more children being raised.
Absolutely. Right now, I can call my best friends that we all met through activism or since we be vegan. 1, 2, 3, including 5. There's 6 of us that have vegan baby with an age of 1, 2, 3. And then we have 2 that are having vegan baby. That's just my best friends. Those are people, people I know. These are my best friends that are having a baby, vegan baby, born vegan. And just think about how many other people are raising vegan kids. Imagine the next 20 years.
I've heard some amazing things about the way you describe your menu items and stuff.
Yeah, we call ourselves galactic vegan. The reason is that we don't limit ourselves to one type of cuisine. Like I said, I'm Persian, so I have veganized a lot of Persian dishes I used to eat. Same, my wife, she's American, right? But her mom is Italian, so she's a lot of into Italian food. And one of my cook, Mexican, so he's vegan. Everybody's vegan in the kitchen, by the way. We're all vegan. You know, we never thought that we were gonna have an open restaurant where everybody's gonna be vegan, because we're like, not everybody's gonna be vegan, but me and my wife thought this will be an opportunity for people to come work here and get familiar with the lifestyle. Maybe this will be something that make them, you know, be motivated to go vegan. But like everybody came was like, I want to work here, I'm vegan. So we're just blessed that way. But one of my head cook, Beto, he's been working all vegan restaurants. He's done a lot of experience. He's vegan also for, I think he's vegan longer than I am. And so he's Mexican, so he brings a lot of Mexican infuse into it. And I have one cook, Kiki. She's Chinese, so she has all these recipes, like compound recipe that was from her father. So we have a little bit of everything. They're like, and then they're like, are you Greek? Or I was like, we have gyros too. We have some Greek food. So we are, I think that's where people love our restaurant, because there's a different type of cuisine for everyone. Wow. There's Persian food, there's American food, there's Italian food, there's Mexican food, there's Asian food. And it all comes from a background of all of us. So that's why we call ourselves Galactic Vegan, because we're here, intergalactic, serving all kinds of different foods, and people love it.
Think of Beastie Boys.
Yeah, people love it. People love it. We have a lot of options. You know, like I said, some people get overwhelmed.
Do you analyze your food costs, and having all that much variety, does it make it challenging to keep your food costs low?
Yes, very. I think that's the most expensive thing as far as our costs. Is the food cost is the most expensive thing. You know, we're still a new business. I still believe that that's something that I really want to continue doing. So we're trying to survive right now, as far as like the whole operation goes. I'll make sure my employees are taken care of first, because the great business comes from happy, great employees. If you don't have that, your business is not going to get anywhere. So Jamie and I were making sure our employees are taken care of, and then before us, we might not be making anything right now, but the goal is to keep the employees happy so you can continue your operation. And I believe in our potential and what we have to offer. It's pretty unique on its own, and I think it's just a matter of time that we're going to get where we want to be at. And we have a lot of great supports. Jamie's parents have been supporting us from day one. They moved to Texas just to be around us, so they could help with the baby. If we're going to be at the restaurant, we live all together in one household, which is a blessing. We have a lot of great support, but yeah, food costs are expensive, especially like this vegan exotic products like vegan cheese. We try to use the best vegan cheese that is in the market. ViaLife. Yeah, I love ViaLife. You know, and that's, again, it comes down to taste and preference. I love ViaLife. Miyako has some good products. Now, Miyakos are very expensive too. They're mozzarella, and they don't sell in bulk. as a restaurant, you can't go get cheese. You need a case, you know what I mean? And Wildlife has been really good, and they're Greek. And I watched a video about they're actually a own family vegan that created Wildlife, and they have an interesting story too. And they started that long time ago in Greek.
So do you like have a way of analyzing? Okay, these are the foods I'm selling the most of, and maybe scaling it down eventually, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. We have changed our menu a lot. A little over 8 months open. We've changed our menu so many times. We took so many items out that was not selling or was very cost effective, add something else. So that's why we haven't announced our grand opening yet. We're still in the soft opening because we're still figuring out a lot of things. We're still trying to figure it out. And we went to a grand opening of a vegan restaurant. It was a disaster. They were not ready.
So does that mean you're really not pushing it out, that you're not advertising a lot or anything?
Not a lot. Not some locally because I want us to be ready. I want us to, when we're open for grand opening, I want to be able to have a full house and make sure everybody's get served properly without us struggling, But we're still we're full staff in the kitchen. We still have new girls and as a server. They're still training.
You want some rice? Yeah, you like rice.
She likes the raw rice.
What else do you like?
Rice.
Do you like peas? Peas? And
Her
corn?
favorite snack is snack on frozen peas. This is a mothership, and we're going to what we call the engine of the mothership. But it's a restricted area, aliens only, beyond this point. And we have a full vegan bar. There are some vegan restaurants that do not have a vegan bar. And the reason is the most popular wines or liquors are not vegan. People really look at it that way. People look at what they can sell the most, so that's why they don't have vegan wine. But we don't have a variety or large selection of liquor, but everything's vegan verified. Come check it out. So you guys remember the good old Baileys? Now they make it with almond. Anything that you can think of, we can make it vegan. We also have organic wine. Vegan wine. We don't have a very large selection. We have a little bit of everything, but everything's 100% vegan, created all liquor. And we also do fresh cold pressed juices. Juiced oranges or limes or lemons, fresh juice, so you don't have to drink liquor. You can get a smoothie, you can get a cold pressed juice. There's something for everybody here at the bar.
Nice. Yeah. Show me your menu.
Yeah, let's check it out. Turn some of the UFO lights on.
Oh wow, cool.
This is appetizers, salad, sandwiches. We have pizzas, 2 pages. And this is annoying vegan pizza. This is our stuffed crust. The crazy part is that we are the only vegan restaurant in the entire Texas that does stuffed crust. How crazy is that? Hey, it's not rocket science. Just takes a little bit more time to open the dough a little wider, stuff it with cheese. We're willing to go that extra mile. None of us were born vegan, unfortunately. So we used to eat all that stuff and now we crave it. A lot of other people out there like us that are vegan and now crave this stuff. So we have to, have the options for them. So we're willing to go that extra mile. And according to my knowledge to this point, we are the only vegan restaurant in the entire big state of Texas that does stuffed crust. And it's called the Annoying Vegan. So it's a half Alfredo, half marinated pizza. The crust is stuffed with the Wildlife smoked provolone. You can also make it super annoying vegan. What's super annoying vegan? So Papa John's came with their pepperoni and cheese stuffed crust not too while ago. And I was like, no, Papa John's, screw you. We're gonna make a vegan version of it. So now you can make your annoying vegan super annoying vegan with pepperoni and cheese stuffed crust. We're going to our burgers. This is our most popular burger. It's a pizza burger. It's giant. People are traveling to eat this from California, from Chicago. I guess people flew in last week from Florida to try this. I guess we're the only vegan restaurant that does that. I'll definitely give you a picture of that so you can share it with everyone. And this is our kebab menu, kebab dishes. That's my baby I was telling you about, kebab kubidem, that I spent about 4 years trying to perfect that recipe. Now you can get it with cherry rice, tart cherry. It's not like black cherry, it's a different type of cherry. It's more like sweet and sour, rather than black cherry is more like sweet. It gives that rice that purple color and lots of flavor. We have a chicken kebab. It's bone-in. The bone is made out of bamboo. So it will give you that experience of holding a chicken without the cruelty. That's pretty popular, marinated in saffron. That's the Prince of Persia. It's a huge dish. It's a big tray. It's a combination of all the kebabs in one big dish with lots of different sides. These are our drinks. These are just non-alcoholic drinks. Basically, any of the cocktails that we make in the house could be turned into a mocktail. And we do a lot of juices, tea, coffee, everything we make freshly brewed here. And desserts, all the desserts we make in the house. Most of the desserts are made by my sister, twin sister. The ice cream cake, it's Jamie's mom. Mellow Martian is our s'more dessert pizza. So it's a pizza with melted marshmallow and chocolate. So I would say it's pretty popular. And the chocolate that we use, it's from a company named Pacha. They're a vegan company. So it's a fair trade, organic, and 100% cacao. So the chocolate that they use, there's no added sweetness in it. It's pure cacao. So if you're looking for that sweet, chocolatey, sugary, you're not gonna find it. It's pure cacao. I think the sweetness comes from white chocolate. It has a white chocolate and dark chocolate. We add a little bit of white chocolate. It comes the white chocolate and the marshmallow. We use Dandy's marshmallow, which is great brand. Great vegan Dandy's brand. Flour that we use, its brand is King Arthur. King Arthur is the only brand I would say that all their flours are non-GMO. We're big on two things here, non-GMO products and clean water. We make our dough in-house. We also make our own gluten-free dough in-house as well. That's made out of rice flour. We also have more items on our website. We just can't fit in on this book. But if you're on our website, there's a lot more options.
What's the website?
It's called www.Pythagoras, like the Pythagoras himself, the philosopher, dot space instead of .com. It's dot space, like the outer space. So www.Pythagoras.space. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.